Hi, my name's Kathy Miller and this week it's 5 minutes on rocks, which I've got to say is a real struggle because there's so much to talk about. First up in this whirlwind tour, there are three main methods of creating rocks. The first one is casting, the second one is carving, and the third one is just going out and buying them. No, it's not really cheating. For some people, it will work really well. So casting, there's two parts to casting. First is the mould, second is what you put in it. So the mould, you can buy commercial moulds. I've got a set of Woodland Scenic ones and they're brilliant. They're lovely, detailed, produce great castings. All the castings are the same though, so that's the only issue with moulds. You can make your own if you want a specific rock type you can't find commercially. I made these latex rubber moulds with coal because it has a nice strata on it. Another common homemade mould is a strong foil just crumpled up. Now I've got to say, mine didn't look much like rocks when they came out, so obviously I need to practice my crumpling. But what you put in it is also key. This is plaster, probably the most common substance used. Hydrocal, fine dental plaster, they all hold the detail well. They also paint well, they're easily available and they're quite lightweight when dry, but this one may chip to white if you're not careful. Plaster may be number one, but you can also use resin. It holds the detail incredibly well, is lightweight, very hard wearing. All in all, a winner, but pricey. The lightest option I've come up with is foam clay. It dries to practically no weight at all, takes paint easily, and you just have to push it in. Putting it in the freezer will help you get it out quicker. My experiments with other options though haven't been successful. This is Sculptamold. It just doesn't hold the detail well enough. Carving is a brilliant way of creating large mountainsides out of quite cheaply available material. This is leftover building foam that I had, PIR foam that was just put in my house. Quick note, I've mostly used just a knife and a wire brush on this. You can use all sorts of implements, but when you're done you need to seal it with some white glue, dilute white glue so the brush strokes don't show, otherwise this foam's a bit soft and it will just get damaged and your paint won't hold. Another way to carve foam rocks is with your Dremel, and this is a different type of foam, it's EVA foam, and I've done a whole video already on it. Bought rocks sometimes just completely hit the spot. I've used these rubber rocks a number of times because they're flexible and they're very easy and they're all over my layout, so win-win. One new type of rock I wanted to try for this video was Wrinkle Rocks by Nock. You get a sheet of paper like this, you scrumple it up and your rocks are done. Now, it's not cheap to buy, but it gives me loads of ideas of things I could do in the future when I'm looking at new types of rock techniques. And once you've got your rock, you'll need to paint it. Even commercial ones only really come in grey. So I have a 5-step process, that sometimes becomes 6, where I paint my rocks. First up, a note on priming. I'm showing you 2 sets of rocks here. The bottom one is unprimed, the top one is primed. Now I primed this with black and then I sprayed it with a zenithal highlight. What does that mean? It means I sprayed a grey spray paint at 45 degrees from above to show where the light actually hits. This will show through to the final layers, especially if you use white, not grey. So step 1, base coat. This needs to be a darker colour. Normally it's your darkest tone in the rock. Not the shadows, but the darkest colour tone. I use a diluted artist acrylic paint, in this case pale umber. And it soaks quite a lot into that unsealed casting, and that's fine. But if you look at the sealed one at the top, it just sits on the surface. The amount of water you need will depend on the thickness of your paint, but generally test it until you can't see your brush strokes. Step 2, second base coat, and I changed the colour for this one slightly. In this case I added a little bit of neutral grey and added a little bit more water so it was still dilute and just painted it on. Step 3, an acrylic black wash. You can do steps 3 and 4 in either order and you'll get a slightly different finish if you do so. You'll notice the black wash sits in the crevices and brings out all the detail in your rock castings. Step 4, dry brush on. In this case I use Wedgwood blue and neutral grey, a different colour. Now don't go too light, this is subtle. And if you've not dry brushed before, the clue is in the name. Take off most of the paint so you have an almost dry brush, and then just whisk it across the tips of all of the rock castings so you just catch the top sections. Finally, step 5, check your colours. I thought this black wash was a little dark, so I put some brown wash over the top to lighten it up a bit. Sometimes I might dry brush a different colour. And here's my carved rocks. I've painted these in exactly the same way, using burnt sienna and raw umber as base coats, a black wash, and then highlighted with a peach colour. So there we go, 5 minutes on rocks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, consider subscribing, hitting the little bell button, or check me out on Patreon or my website, kathymillett.co.uk. See you next time.